gently, night unfurls its splendor. Grasp it, sense it, tremulous and tender. Turn your face away from the garish light of day. Turn your thoughts away from cold, unfeeling light, and listen to the music of the night. Close your eyes and surrender to your darkest dreams. Purge your thoughts of the life you knew before. Close your eyes, let your spirit start to soar. And you'll live as you've never lived before. Softly, deftly, music shall caress you. Hear it, feel it, secretly possess you. Open up your mind, let your fantasies unwind in this darkness which you know you cannot fight. The darkness of the music of the night. Let your mind start a journey through this strange new world. Leave all thoughts of the world you knew before. Let your soul take you where you long to be. Only then can you belong to me.
That's sensational. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my very special guest. He is one of the entertainment industry's and one of Broadway world's favorite leading men. Please say hello to my friend, Norm Lewis. Hey, Norm. What was it like? Oh, my gosh. I just got goosebumps watching that all over again because I remember being there for your first performance, your opening night at the Majestic Theater in the Phantom of the Opera. What was that like watching that for you?
That was, God, it brought back so many memories. And I can't believe how long ago it was. It was six years ago now.
It was yesterday.
Yeah, I know, just yesterday, right? And it was, so many dreams were fulfilled. I got to work on stage with an amazing cast. There was this woman that was in the clip. I can't think of her name, but she was always in my way. And I was like, oh, could you just move? You know, no, but no, I got to work with my friend, I love her so much, Sierra Vargas. But it was, Andrew Lloyd Webber was there that night, and Harold Prince was there, and so it was just so magical. My family was there, and seeing your face was just, it was a comfort, but it was also, like I said, a dream come true.
I was going to ask you, because I remember that night I saw Hal Prince and his family sit in the Hal Prince box. Right before the show started. And I was like, oh my gosh, everybody is here for Norm's first performance in this show. What did that mean to you? Because you were the first African-American to play the role of Phantom on Broadway. Right. In Phantom. I mean, how life-changing was that for you? Just what that meant to you?
It was, it's interesting because I've just always coveted the role and I just wanted it. I just wanted to work. I wanted to work in that show because I loved that show so much. And I kept saying for years, they kept asking me, what is your dream role? And Phantom was that. And I just never thought I had a chance. And finally my chance came. And then I'm on that stage and I just felt, even in my audition, this is the same thing. I felt the souls of people who were living and also people who have passed on, the shoulders that I stand on. And Robert Guillaume, being the first African-American to play the role, I definitely was standing on his shoulders, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make these people proud. And my friends, my family.
Yeah.
It was the night was just it was I can't even remember it. You know what I mean? Like I just remember the bow. I actually remember the bow at the end of the show.
Because I spoke to you that night right after on stage, and you were like, Richie, the whole night is a blur. The show started for you, and then you were taking your bow.
I was taking my bow. Yeah.
Well, first of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm home. I'm great. Thank you for asking. I'm home. I've been quarantined, like everyone else. I've only gone out a few times. In the beginning, I was I don't want to say a little, I was very scared.
Yes.
So scared that even when I opened the door to my own apartment, I was like peeking around like the boogeyman was behind the door.
I was too. Yeah.
And I just didn't want, luckily I had enough groceries and I was fine. And I thought, okay, maybe this will pass. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Finally, I was running out of food and essentials. And there's a small grocery store near me that stays open 24/7. And so I went grocery shopping at like 1 or 2 in the morning. So I would avoid people and then I would come straight home. I stayed indoors for a good 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And would only go out when I had to. But now it's better. It's warmer now. I know that I can go to the parks and socially distance with friends, wearing my mask, and that's very important. And so I feel a little bit better, but I'm still trying to take precautions.
Yeah, I am too. Like we talked about before we went on today. I mean, I still wear my mask, my gloves, a hat. I still, clean up I wash down our groceries and we come home. We have a whole routine. This is our 127th day of quarantine.
Wow. I just, it feels like yesterday that it started, but then it also, so at the same time, it feels like last year, what I mean? So it's weird. We're in a dream.
I know because I spoke to you a little bit into like the 2 month of this. And I know it was very hard for you early on, this whole of dealing with all this. What was the turning point for you that like you started to ease your way into the world and ease yourself back? I mean, what was it for you?
I had a lot of friends that called and said, "Hey, you know what? It's not so bad out here in the park." And and what funny enough that that Sierra was on the clip because she got me out. Another really good friend of mine on my birthday. My birthday is June 2nd, and so they said, "Let's go to the park and we'll have a socially distant picnic." And we basically were 6 feet apart from each other. But it was great. And I got to breathe in this fresh air and the foliage was green and, it felt so good. So I've started from there slowly and people have been inviting me out to go and socially have a drink or go get some dinner actually. So.
Well, what's great about you? You have used your voice and your talents in such wonderful ways during this pandemic. And I am one of the many, many people who want to thank you for that because I would use you as an inspiration when I would watch you do what you do. And I said, you know what? It's all going to be better when it gets better, thanks to you. Just so you know that. I wanted to tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to mention a few of them. Tell us about your Lincoln Center #Memorial for Us All video and what made that so special for you.
Well, I got a phone call from the people in charge in Lincoln Center, and they wanted to do something to memorialize the people who unfortunately have passed on, and also to commemorate those people who have been sick and have made it through. But when they came to me, they said they wanted me to sing like 3 or 4 songs, and I said, well, what exactly do you want? Do you want something upbeat, or do you want something that is? And they said they wanted something that will help people remember these people, and so we chose a good group of songs. I think I did 4. One was acapella, and it felt good because I could use a gift that I have because you feel helpless and hopeless in being inside. You want to donate your time or you want to donate helping people, but you can't even get close to people. So being able to sing and make aware was a gift for me to share what I had.
Yeah, well, that was really beautiful. Also, talk about the national health campaign, Well-Beings, that you're helping to launch alongside people like Billy Porter and Josh Gad. What a wonderful thing you're involved in.
Yeah, it's funny because so many people have decided to get together because, like we said, we can't really get together physically, but we can do things on the internet. Thank God for the. Can you imagine not having the internet? Can you imagine? You just have television and the radio. But yeah, we have been able to make aware of this campaign and just I think it's all about that and just making sure that people are okay. Making sure that there's a way for people to reach out and be able to contact other folks. And so, we're continuing that process.
Yeah. So what has amazed you the most and what has frustrated you the most during this pandemic? I mean, talk about how important it is for people to speak up, especially for things like Black Lives Matter, and what a single voice can do to help make change.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't realize what their single voice can do. And I think the one good thing about this administration, if I could say, is the fact that they have made people who were apathetic about politics more aware. And it's awakened this giant that's in this country of social justice and social issues. And now folks who felt like their votes or their voice didn't mean anything now feel like, you know what, maybe I do have something to say. Maybe that vote does mean something. So I'm going to be more vocal on both sides. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've noticed since the George Floyd incident, which was the straw, that everybody saw, that it opened up a Pandora's box, and what has been spouted for so many years is now aware. People are more aware of it now. And what's the beauty of it, if I can say that, is when you have other countries saying Black Lives Matter, and when you have, especially Japan, which is a country that is so proud of their pure race, but they're saying Black Lives Matter. So I think there's a shift in society that's getting ready to happen it's going to be moving forward for the positive. And you better jump on this train or you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. See, I think everybody has to realize that their voice will matter.
Right.
For every one that does this, turns into 100, turns into 1,000, turns into a 500,000. It makes a very, very big difference.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so for one of those reasons, you're probably going to bring it up anyway. So I thought maybe let me just say this, but we started a coalition called Black Theater United. Yeah. And it's 19 founders. And it was just some people who are friends who wanted to say something, but didn't know exactly what they wanted to say because it's such a confusing time. Yeah. And then we figured out, and we're still figuring out what we want to say and how we want to say it, and deal with issues that are on a micro level, like in the world of theater, and on a macro level of society. And so, we're doing things, helping with making voter registration awareness, making the census aware. So, because a lot of people don't realize how important the census is. Otherwise, there's money that is allocated to your area. And if you don't sign up, fill out that census, that money will not get there. Your potholes and your bridges and all these other structures will not be built, and going to the schools and things like that. So we're trying to push that. And we had a beautiful town hall recently with Sherilyn Ifill, who is the president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And I was so enthralled by who she is and what she presented. I've gone back to watch it again, and it's so informative. So many things that I just did not know myself. And I think that's what the important thing is about learning about each other. There's a history that has been erased for so long that needs to be put back. So
that was a really incredible town hall meeting, and anybody can watch it online. All this stuff is available to watch online. Very, very important.
Yeah.
Well, this Sunday, July 19th, and Monday, July 20th, you'll be joining Seth Rudetsky for his virtual Seth concert series. Sunday night at 8 p.m. is live, and Monday at 3 p.m. is a replay. What can your fans expect? What can you tell us?
It's going to be that Norm Lewis journey. It's one of those things. When Seth and I get together, we've known each other. He was one of the first people to ever hire me. when I moved here 30 years ago. And he took a chance on this guy who was like, didn't know upstage from downstage, and was so green and so innocent because I came from a different world, the business world, but I knew how to sing. And that was kind of the only thing. And so we have a lot of different stories, a lot of major history together. So you're going to see us, just two guys just hanging out, shooting the breeze, singing some songs, and that mean a lot to us. And probably a song that we did years ago, things like that. And it's just going to be fun. And I've seen the other ones, and I loved them. Jeremy Jordan he sounds amazing, but you saw a different side of him that you don't see normally. And Audra McDonald and Jesse Mueller, it's funny because we get to see them as fans, and we get to experience their talent, but a lot of times we don't know who they are. And when you get those little tidbits, it's like, oh man, that's so cool. I didn't know you did that, or So that's what. Hopefully, you'll find some stuff about me.
And it's virtual. This is the new now. So it's like, where will Seth be on Sunday, and where will you be, and how does it all come together?
Well, Seth is going to be, I think, at his home, and I will be. I was going to do it here, but we decided, because a friend of mine has a really nice, tight little studio. He's allowed me to use his place, and he has a better microphone. So I'm going to go to his place, and just he's allowed me to stay there for like a couple of hours and just chill out. And Seth and I, again, we're just going to have a whole lot of fun.
Because like Jeremy Jordan's done my show, and Cheyenne's done my show, and Jesse's like, oh my gosh, we just had to run through, and Leia Salonga was on, and Leia was like, she's where she is in the Philippines, which is like 100 hours later or whatever. Right. And it's like, I was like, what was your sound check like? So it's like, have you sound checked yet, or what is your sound check for Sunday? It's
actually pretty good. I mean, this technology is crazy. I had no idea. And this is going to probably be, even when we get back, I think that there's going to be a business or an industry where this is going to be a regular thing, so.
But let's talk about virtual now. You perfected your virtual skills, because all these beautiful videos, like I said, the Lincoln Center and all these things I've seen of you online, I'm like, boy, Norm's really got this whole thing down. Like,
well, I got my little ring lights here, so just trying to make sure that I'm seen and I look pretty decent, I guess, hopefully. And
you look great.
Yeah, God bless. I'll send you your check. But it's one of those things, like, and it's funny because I know now you can change the background. That looks horrible. That looks horrible when people, but you can change the background like you're on the beach or like by a pool or in a cabana or something. But I'm learning slowly. And I know that now the technology is getting more and more and more. Like we're on StreamYard now, right? And I think that's a better quality than what the Zoom is. But Zoom is still really good. I mean, a lot of people are teaching over Zoom. I think some of the classrooms are going to be on Zoom when they go back to school in the fall. So, it's crazy.
Okay, well, speaking of teaching, you're getting ready to teach a virtual masterclass. Is it through Work? WERK.
Oh, right.
You have a master class on Monday, July 27th, don't you?
Oh yeah, that's it. that's another thing. I found out that I really need someone to organize me, because a lot of times I'm like, what am I doing today? I don't know what. First of all, I don't know what day it is. Second of all, I know that I'm supposed to do something on certain days, and then luckily, like my reps are like, they'll call me, Norm, you have this gig today. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, that's right. And I have it written down, but I need someone to really organize me. So.
Well, I'll help you with that. So just have millions of people be watching me saying, oh, my God, we can help Norm. You have a master class coming up that you're teaching on Monday, July 27th. And I think it's about song, like going into like auditions, honing your audition skills, making it be the best you that you can be. What do you love about teaching students? I think it's going to be 12 students in the room. It's going to be virtual.
Right.
So I know you've done this before. Like, what do you enjoy the most about teaching, especially the young ones?
The wonderful thing is that you get to see and you get to cultivate. Like I try never to change anyone in the sense of like their technique or anything like that, because that's a whole nother level. But what I do is I make them look at the material through different lenses. Instead of, a lot of times people feel like, especially the young ones, feel like they need to perform. You know, they need to instead of really going deep and figuring out what the words are. And I just take them on a journey and make them do the song in different ways. If it's a sad song, I make them sing it while they're smiling and happy, and turn it into an upbeat, up-tempo song. Or I'll make them do a cartwheel so I can just get some reaction from them. So it's figuring out what would be the best for them when they go into an audition. Because a lot of times, especially now, as you know, there's so many talented kids out there. They come out of the womb singing, dancing, and acting. Where, you know, back in my day when we first got here, there was only dancers, there were only singers, there were only actors, and there was separate categories. Now everybody can do everything. So you have to compete on a different level. And a lot of times if you go deeper into the material, people can see that, and hopefully they'll want to hire you from that. So it's fun for me because it also helps me as an actor, because it takes me back to the basics, and I go, oh yeah, I need to do that myself.
Yeah. Well, like I said, anybody who wants to do this virtual masterclass with Norm Lewis on Monday, July 27th, just go to WERK. I think it's one-on-one, or just type in Norm Lewis Masterclass and it'll come up. That's going to be so great that night for you. But I want to go back to the Seth Concert Series to let people know where they can get tickets. The Seth Concert Series is produced by Mark Cortali and is sponsored by Broadway World and StreamYard. Tickets are available at Broadway World Events and at SethConcerts.com. And right now there's an early bird special. They're only $20. I know where I'm going to be on Sunday and Monday. I'm going to be watching your concert, just so you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Please.
You know, I also want to talk about, you were also on CBS this morning. I think you performed Lift Every Voice and Sing a cappella outside the beautiful Lincoln Center. I mean, what did that mean to you, Norm, to be able to do that and use your voice and just touch so many people?
Well, again, it was, you know, to talk about the memorial in place there. And I felt honored that they would ask me to do that. And I wanted to pick the right song. And I felt like that one was the right song. It is, you know, it was, I'm forgetting the names now. I used to know the history of this. James, oh God, I wish I'd been more prepared. But it was written as a poem in the beginning, back in the early 1900s. And then eventually was by the same, there was a brother of the person who wrote the poem who made it into a song. And over the years, the NAACP adopted it as the Negro National Anthem. And so for years, whenever African Americans would get together for certain events, they would use that song as the national anthem. And still to this day, a lot of times people do that. I felt like, because I used it in Memorial segment that we did online. And I felt like it was the perfect song for everyone. And just for us to have hope, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. And so those words resonated with me. And I felt like that it would be a great message to people who have been stuck inside for so long and feeling helpless.
You realize how somebody's talent can help change someone's life. I mean, just, you know, God gave you these voices and you can use it to help heal people. And that's what you've done during this pandemic. So it's really great.
Well, I'm honored to be a part of anything that can help uplift anyone and make someone feel much better.
Yeah. Well, you have given us so many memorable performances throughout your illustrious career. And let's just chat about a few of them and tell me. I got a few of them behind me, just so you know. I've got your Broadway debut in Tommy. We've got some Jesus Christ Superstar from Broadway, but you did that incredible NBC one. And we have Two Gentlemen of Verona. We got some Miss Saigon. We got some Phantom. We've got some Les Miserables. How do you say this? Fabulous. I love it. Fabulous. But you know, many people were supposed to make their Broadway debuts this spring, and then the pandemic hit. I mean, I had the stars of Six on. They were supposed to actually make theirs the day that Broadway shut down. And so many people, you know, a few days after that and weeks after that. Broadway debuts are really special. They only come along once. What do you remember about yours from the Who's Tommy? Was it a magical night for you? What are your memories of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I got here, again, I was one of those guys, like I said, I was very green when I first got here. And the process, it took about 3 years before I made it to Broadway. but I kept working. Thank God, I was doing regional theater and stuff,
Yeah.
and so I kept saying I want to make it on Broadway before age 30, and I opened April 22nd of 1993, and my birthday was June 2nd, 1993, and I would have turned 30. So I made it to Broadway before I was 30. But it was just amazing because Broadway is the pinnacle, it's the phoenix of what live performances are. Everybody wants to do Broadway, no matter whether if you're in Vegas or anywhere around the world. If you do Broadway and you have that credit, you've done well. So from that perspective, being with that cast, going through those 8 weeks of rehearsal, then tech, and I was in heaven. And my mom was still alive at the time, so she came to my opening night, and you could just tell she was bursting with pride, and my brother and sister were there. And so it was just wonderful. And just one of those things where kind of like the Phantom, my Phantom opening night, it was one of those things where it was such a blur that I remember stepping foot on stage in the beginning and then taking a bow, and then I was at the opening night party. But I just remember also that after a week or so of that, it turned into, you know what, this is a job. This is a job. I'm glad I'm in it, and I made my Broadway debut, but now it's time to like hunker down. You got to do 8 shows a week. You got to show up, and you got to be on point. And so that's what my process was with that.
You know, it's really interesting. We just finished our Next on Stage series. We had a high school edition and we had a college edition. These kids are so talented. I mean, they are really, really talented. But, you know, it's like one of the questions they asked the judges were, how do you get through 8 shows a week? Like, how do you put that all together? And that's what it's like about working on stage, is keeping your performance fresh. Like, did you learn that in Tommy about how to do that? Like, how to keep 8 shows fresh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, up until that point, I had been in shows, regional theater and stuff, but it only lasted maybe a couple of months here and there. But this was going to be a longer period, and so I had to make sure. Let me say, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. A lot of those shows that I did in regional theater, I was the lead, so I was prepared, and I was disciplined enough to know, you can't go out and drink, you can't go out and party all night and then try to come back in. So I was disciplined from that perspective. But for some reason, this was different. And knowing that I was finally making enough money to live on, I just treated it as such. I treated it as a job, and I wanted to do my best. And I wanted to, because for me, my reputation is more important than anything, more important than, even my talent. So I wanted people to know that I would show up on time. I would do my work. So that way I can get hired again. And so it was about learning the discipline. And I'm glad I learned it from that cast too, because it was like a team. That's one thing that I always try to tell people. Try not to be one of those people who calls in sick all the time. Yeah. It's about being a team. I mean, God bless the understudies, and I love them for doing what they do. In fact, I don't think I'm smart enough to be an understudy. Yeah. But, if you are well enough to go out and drink the night before, you got to be well enough to come and do the show.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you then went into Miss Saigon as John. Is that where you met your future director, Richard J. Alexander? Was it during that time period?
Yes. So Richard J. actually hired me. I was auditioning for Les Miserables. Didn't get that position. I think they put me on hold or something like that. I think they were thinking of me for Les Mis. Yeah. But then they knew that the role of John was coming up, and so they put me on hold until that opening. And I replaced someone up in Toronto and was up there for 6 months. And then after those 6 months, I came back to Broadway.
So first, let's talk about doing John. What a fabulous role. And talk about that incredible song you opened the second act with.
That was, wow. I listened to the album so many times, so I knew the show forwards and backwards. And that was another role that I coveted. I wanted that role and finally got it. But it was one of those things I was a little intimidated by it because it's so rangy. You are actually hitting bass notes and then you have to hit some tenor notes. But luckily, God bless Vinnie Liff. Vinnie Liff was a casting director for a company called Johnson Liff. that was major. They pretty
yeah.
much passed all of the shows on Broadway at that time. And he asked me something in the audition one day. He said, "Do you have the B flat?" And I said, "Well, some days I do." He said, "Well, don't come back until you have it." And it wasn't a diss. It wasn't like he was trying to, show off on me and everything, but he was just trying to help me. He was like, "Go get it. I want you to have this part, so go get it." And so I went out and learned how to do this B flat that would last 8 times a week in a show. So I loved it. I did not know as much. I found out more about the Vietnam War through this, and my cousin was a vet in Vietnam, and he married a woman who was Vietnamese, and he fathered 3 children. So I basically used my cousin for my role in John because John was an advocate for getting these kids back to their fathers in the United States. And so it was beautiful. I was in the show for 2.5 years. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, going back to directors, Richard J. has directed, I think, all of your nightclub acts.
Yeah.
He produced your incredible best-selling Christmas album.
Right.
What is it why do you two work so well together? I mean, people want to have that connection with the director.
He's just, first of all, he's nuts.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love him. But he's just so smart. He really knows what the audience wants.
Yeah.
And he one of his main things, he says, "Norm, it's about information. So anytime you do a gig, find out about the venue, find out about the history of the song. What does that song mean to you? And you can tell those stories. And, it resonates with what maybe is going on in society at the time or pop culture at the time. And you can correlate those two things because for the audience wants to go on this journey with you. And it's not so much about the song or about your singing, but they get to know who you are. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. And he's a great audience. So he's like, okay, this is what I want to see when I go see a show. So now I'm going to put that in a show that I'm directing.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, great working relationship, the two of you. Then there was Michael John LaCusa's The Wild Party. I'm going to mention one name, Eartha Kitt.
I don't know who that is. No. Wow. Eartha Kitt. God. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things you can say about this woman. I grew up with knowing her from her nightclub acts, that they would show on television, and that voice that she has and that laugh. And I also, she was a Catwoman in the television show of Batman. And she would say perfectly, so I can't even do it perfectly. But she was one of the best Catwomen that they ever had because of her sexiness and sassiness. And she was authentically herself. Yeah. She had never wavered. She has never changed. And what I loved about her, she was very much of a nurturer. Yeah. She treated us like her children. And we would go to her house and she would cook for us, or sometimes we'd cook for her. Yeah. And one of the things I just remember, it was so sad because it was getting late and we were like, "Eartha, we got to leave." And she was like, "No, please don't go." So it made us feel loved. But we had a great time with her, and we learned a lot about discipline. We learned a lot about professionalism. She was 74 years old in that show, and yet she would be there even way before times. And when she wasn't being used, she would be in the corner doing push-ups and jumping jacks. And it was like, wow, this woman is so inspirational, along with being an icon and the talent. So it was wonderful working with her.
Yeah, perfect. Then you did one of my all-time favorite musicals, the short-lived Amour.
Oh.
I mean, you got to work with Michel Legrand. I mean, what was that experience like?
Well, it's funny because it was one of those things where we did a workshop of it. Yeah. And like a year before we did it on Broadway, and James Lapine, an amazing, like he's so wonderful at putting a book together. Yeah. And he's such a great writer, and he can cast a show like nobody's business. He knows how to cast the right people. And what was interesting for us is they lifted it and basically just translated it from the Parisian version. Something wasn't right. it had more of a French sensibility that just would not work on Broadway. So James redid some things, and he made Michel Legrand write a couple of new songs and then take some other stuff out. And I felt like it worked. It it had one of those. It was one of those shows that became a cult favorite. It wasn't necessarily a broad favorite of everyone's because we didn't last too long on Broadway. But I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the cast. Malcolm Getz, Melissa Errico, Chris Fitzgerald, Louis Cleal.
Yeah.
I'm leaving people out. But we just had such a great ensemble of people, and we loved each other. And I think it was only an hour and a half. I don't think there was an intermission. So it was a cute little show. And someone even said that it was like an effervescent show. No one was hitting any high C's. No one was belting out any big notes, but you got the story and you really enjoyed yourself for that hour and a half.
It was beautiful. Like I said, one of my favorite short-lived musicals.
Yeah.
Really, really great. You have quite a history with the role of Javert in the landmark musical. What's that musical called again?
The land of the I don't know. Les Miserables.
I love that. What does that role and that show mean to you?
Wow, that role, that show. I saw that show on my birthday in 1987 on Broadway. And I just remember I was very green and new. I hadn't even moved to New York yet, but it was recommended to me. And I'm like, what the hell is this Les Mis thing? What are you talking about? I remember leaving that theater crying. I could barely get out of my seat. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And then 20 some odd years later, I get in the show and then I dive deeper. And it's one of those shows that resonates with everyone. They feel themselves on that stage somehow. Some character is one of us, in the audience. Reading the book, which helped me develop the characters and find out more about the other ones, you go, okay, Valjean had this, forgiving type belief in God, where Javert was very black and white. Everything's black and white. Sin is sin, no matter if you're stealing bread or if you kill somebody, it's sin, and you got to pay for it. And God is the ultimate being. So you have to please God. And so he couldn't see, there was no gray area for him. So it was interesting going through that process and being so conservative. And so I used a lot of influences from, even today that made that character who he is. What I wanted to do, because it had been around for so long, the music is very staccato. Tell me quickly, what's the story? Who saw what and why and where? And it's written so beautifully that you could actually just stand there and sing it. But I wanted to go, like I tell students, go deeper. There's questions there. There's actual dialogue there. So actually interact with someone on stage. So when I was going through it with my coach, my acting coach, we would speak the words and just go slower so we could understand what that scene meant. And so it just kind of like, okay. And that was my subtext. I didn't have to announce it to the world, but I would do little things that would make it interesting for me, and hopefully it translated to the audience.
Yeah. There is a fan base for Les Mis like no other show.
Yeah.
I mean, because I used to go all the time, and once those lights went out and you saw that first time, that first lettering that went up there, it was like a Broadway rock concert of people taking this incredible journey. What that must have felt like.
Well, it's interesting because Claude Michel Schoenberg and Alain Boublil their music, it's so interesting how it was just the perfect storm. Their music, the story, John Caird and Trevor Nunn's direction, Cameron McIntosh producing it. It was just this perfect storm of the great, all these creative people to make this come to life. And I remember going to see it in Baltimore. A friend of mine was in it in a national tour. This was before I was in the show. Yeah. And there was a guy sitting next to me, and the whole time he kept like bending down and breathing really heavily, and he would lean back, and it was disrupting because I kept looking at this guy like, what's wrong with him? The lights came up for intermission. He's like, excuse me, he goes to the bathroom, and his wife looks at me and she's like, I'm so sorry. He just lost his mom.
Oh,
So this show, and so I didn't know that because I thought this guy was like bored out of his mind, but he was trying to fight back tears because of what was happening on stage. And so I kind of went, okay, let me let this guy do his thing, and I could enjoy it actually through his eyes because I had seen it before. So
yeah.
yeah.
How beautiful. I've had some of those experiences at the show too. I would sit next to people who were like, oh my gosh, this is my first time seeing it. This is my 19th time with my friend who has seen it. Just to watch people how that show affected them was really great.
Yeah,
You then originated the role of King Triton opposite Sierra Vargas. Was that the first time you? Is that the first time you met her? Was it during Little Mermaid?
Yeah, well, I was just finishing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you bring up Les Mis because that was my first time in Les Mis. I did the revival back in 2006, and was only there for 6 months, and then I ended up getting King Triton. So I left Les Miserables, had a couple weeks off before we started rehearsals for Little Mermaid. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go on vacation. And I went to California and I went to Vegas. And I said, I'm going to meet my daughter. I'm going to finally meet my daughter. So she was Christine in Phantom in Vegas. So I go see the show because I knew Brent Barrett and I went to see Brent and some other people. And then all of a sudden I go backstage afterwards and she runs up to me. She's like, Daddy! And she jumps in my arms like we had never met before. But it was fantastic. And from that, we've just, been the best of friends for so long. But she is, I just cannot believe how super talented this woman is. Watching her play Christine, and then all of a sudden she had all that soprano stuff going on. And then she turns around and she comes and she belts her butt off in Little Mermaid and just was perfect, just perfect. It was a great cast. And to this day, Titus Burgess, we're all still friends and having a good time.
I love it. It must have been so great to have her when you made your debut as the Phantom, to have her as your Christine. It must have just been so extra special to have her.
Absolutely. Yeah. She helped me. It's funny because, and it's funny you bring that up. She was the one that really, really got me to the point of knowing who this character was. They did everything, Harold Prince was there. And also, Seth Sklar, who is the resident director and one of the producers. They all helped me, but it was really Sierra that actually kind of gave that extra little boost because she had been guided with Harold, with Andrew Lloyd Webber and Jenny Lynn when she did it. Gillian Lynn, when she did it in Vegas. So she had all of those original creators give her essence as who Christine was. So when she came to help me, she was like, oh, yeah, you need to be here. You need to do this. So it really was a joy to be with her on my opening.
Well, I know you mentioned Harold Prince. I adored this man from growing up, listening to cast albums when my parents, went to his shows. Then I was able to go to his shows. I was able to meet Harold Prince. He was a big supporter of mine, too. And I just think he's one of the greatest directors ever who has ever worked on Broadway. So I'm just thrilled you got the opportunity to work with him.
Here. Yeah, he was, we knew him as a producer, also a director. And the interesting thing about him, and you probably already know this, but when they did the Prince of Broadway to herald his life and show who he was and the shows he did not want the show to be about him. And it was like, Harold, he was he was so humble, but he was like, I don't want, let's just not talk about that. Let's concentrate on the shows that I've produced or directed.
One of the greatest. Well, we're going to move on from Harold Prince to Stephen Sondheim. Because that guy. You have worked on several Stephen Sondheim shows, including everything from Sondheim on Sondheim for Roundabout, A Bed in a Chair and Encores, and of course, Sweeney Todd. First of all, singing for Stephen Sondheim and getting to know him, what is that like?
It's crazy. What's so, I keep saying what's so interesting. I got to stop saying that because now that's going to be my tagline. What's so interesting?
But you learn from the best.
You learn from the best. It was for me years ago. Okay, so I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Years ago, I heard about or learned Being Alive. And I was a young pup. I was someone who wanted to show off my voice, those big notes, blah, blah, blah. Then I turned 37. And I actually got to play Bobby at Helen Hayes up in Nyack. And that song resonated with me at the time differently because I was the actual age of who Bobby was. Then 10 years later, I get to perform it again at age 47 in Sondheim on Sondheim, and it meant something completely different. So that was the first time that I sang that for him. He wanted me to emphasize the word body in the song. For me, it felt so weird. You know, somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. And I'm like, what are you talking? I said, okay, you're Stephen Sondheim. You wrote it. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. But after singing it that way, it resonated. He was like, it's about the body. It's about somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Like the body of another human. So I was getting what he was thinking while he was writing it. And to be coached by him in Sondheim on Sondheim, it was like a masterclass. It was so many things. And, you know, this man is a genius. I call him the Shakespeare of musical theater, but, you know, he's beyond that. You don't even have to act with his music. Yeah. Just stand there and just sing it. And, you know, if you have a good voice, that's an added cherry. If you're a good actor, that's an added cherry. But the way he writes, the way that it's the meter and also the tone, all of it is just so beautiful and so magical.
Everybody said his notes are so succinct. They're like words that he gives you that just set you on your way. Bernadette Peters told me that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like, you know who's like that is Aaron Sorkin. I've never worked with Aaron, but I've heard like when he was on when he wrote for the West Wing, every like comma, was written in, and you had to do those. You couldn't make up anything, you know. So
when you were doing Sweeney Todd downtown, didn't you just sing in his face? Like, wasn't one of the performances when you were doing Sweeney?
Yes,
Sondheim was there. Tell us about that.
So it was coming up to the Epiphany, and you know, if we were down at the Barrow Street Theater, and if anyone didn't see it, it was one of those immersive experiences where it was only 130 some odd people in the room, and there were tables, and then there was like benches behind those that people could sit. You could actually get there early and eat a pie, a vegetable pie, or a meat pie. Yeah, and they were great. But you got to be up close and personal with the actor. And Carol Lee and I went in at the same time, and we had
Carol Lee Carmello.
Yes, I'm sorry, Carol Lee Carmello. She can, you know, everybody knows who Carol Lee is.
Yes,
that one name. She's like Cher, but so super talented. One of the best I've ever seen when it comes to Mrs. Lovett.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember we had to relearn how to act because we were staring in people's faces because we were this close to them. Yeah. And it was a game of stare, and I had to win. So a lot of people felt very uncomfortable. They would look away, or like, you know, and I just had to, we had to go. I just remember what John Caird told me one time. He said, when you're on stage and you have to look into the audience, look at each person as a different thought. And that's what I had to do. It was like this person, I would think of killing somebody, and I would go over here and I think of killing another person. And so it was wonderful for us. We had such a great time. But yes, I had to jump on a table during the Epiphany, and then I had to jump off the table and jump onto a railing. And Stephen Sondheim was right behind that railing. So I was brave enough to go right into his face and go, with the blade. And, you know, Stephen's so cool. He was like, whatever.
He's seen the show before.
Oh, I'm scared.
Yeah. But you scared me one of the nights I was down there to see you and Carol Lee. I saw you guys twice down there, and I had seen the show down there, but boy, you pop out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, you know, right out of my skin. Really, really wonderful. And then, of course, there is the role of Porgy in the landmark musical Porgy and Bess. You shared the stage with Audra McDonald. I mean, you must have so many incredible memories of doing Porgy and Bess, because I got to see it first up at ART, and then I saw it numerous times. They were out-of-body experiences for me as an audience member. What did it mean to you taking on that role, singing that score, working with Audra? Like, what can you share with us?
Well, I did not realize that I would ever play this role. Like, I never even thought that would be in my realm, because it's usually played by an operatic singer.
Yeah.
And the role of Sport in Life, I thought maybe I had a chance, but it's usually in an opera house. So when they said they were going to do a revival, and then Audra McDonald was going to be, I thought, okay, I'll be Sport in Life. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
They'll probably bring in a star from the opera world. They were like, no, they want to see you. I'm like, what? Okay. So we go through the music, and we go through some physical things, because they wanted him on his feet instead of being on a cart. So so we did some physical stuff. We did the scene work and all that. And when they said that I had it, I was just over the moon. First of all, to get to work with Audra, we'd only done one thing together, and that was a concert with Seth Rudetsky for the Dreamgirls concert. So to have this chance to work with someone who I've admired for so long was just awesome. So we started off in ART, and we were going through the process with permission from the Gershwins.
Yeah.
And they would say yes, they would say no, they would say, we didn't want to change the show, but we wanted to experiment with the show. And we came to, I thought, what would be a great conclusion, and for a musical as opposed to an opera. And they tailored it to both Audra and I. They lowered some keys for her because you can't sing that music 8 times a week. And
no one ever did. You're right.
Yeah, and then they brought me up a little bit as a baritone. They brought some of the music up so I could match her in musically, and that ensemble. One of the greatest critiques or reviews that we ever had was people kept saying that we were such a community. Like, they felt they were watching a community of people. And the wonderful thing that Diane Paulus, our director, did was, some people see it as a theater game. Yeah. And at first it was kind of like, oh, what are we doing? We're graduated from that. But it actually helped our cast. She made each and every one of us do like a 5-minute backstory. Presentation day. Of who we are. And I found out I had cousins in the community. So I would call them by their name on stage. Even if they didn't have a name in the show, they had a name, and for us to interact with each other. It didn't last long enough for me. I thought the show was going to last a lot longer, but we had a great time. The Gershwins themselves loved it. I think they wanted to reopen who this show was and what this show was, and bring it to a broader audience. And I thought that they did a wonderful job at that.
Was he the most challenging role you've ever taken on, Porgy?
No, Physically, yes. But I was taken care of off stage. So, chiropractic and physical therapy. But I think the toughest role was the Phantom. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're everywhere in the Phantom, I can imagine.
Yeah.
You work so much on TV and film also. And I know one of your latest projects is Defy Bloods, of course, for director Spike Lee on Netflix. I mean, Spike Lee, it's a fabulous movie. You're so sensational in this.
Thank
as
you.
Eddie. What was the best part of that experience, doing that role, working with Spike Lee?
Yes.
All the above.
That was the best part. It was all of it. Like, Spike called me out of the blue, and we had known each other because we've been to certain events together, or he's come to see shows that I've been in. And then I got a chance to do his TV show, She's Gotta Have It. So a few months after that, he gives me a call, like really late, like 10 o'clock at night. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He's like, "I'm going to send you a script. I want you to read it, and then we'll talk about it." Click. He hung up on me. So I read it. The next day he calls. He said, "What do you think?" I'm like, "It's great." I'm thinking, Spike wants my opinion about a script, and he didn't offer me a job. I just thought, oh, this is great. He wants my opinion. So then he said, "I want you to meet me for dinner." So we met for dinner, and we talked about the script. We talked about the characters, and then he said, "I want you to play the role of Eddie." And I'm thinking inside, I'm like, ah, but outside, I'm being really cool, and I go, "Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate this. This is awesome." But getting to go over to Thailand. That's where we shot the major jungle scenes. Was also fantastic. He was in a really good mood because he had just won his Oscar for Black Klansman, and that but like the week before. So he was in a great mood. Here I am on this major set with this major budget with Netflix, and with these people I've admired, Delroy Lindo and Isaiah Whitlock and Clark Peters, and then getting to meet, now watch out for this guy, Jonathan Majors, who played the son. I'm hoping that he will remember me after he becomes like this, this major star. But it was such a great ensemble of people, and what you saw on film is the dynamic that was off stage as well, because we all really, really got along so well, and we wanted to make this right. For one, for Spike, for the history of who these men were, and to tell this story that's never been told before. So we had a great time, and Spike really set the groundwork for that. He had his idea, but in the middle of that, sometimes he would change things and go, "I want you to say this instead of that," and then he would say, "Okay, what would Eddie say in this moment?" So he really, you felt so comfortable in that space.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a great film. So anybody, if you want to watch anything, go to Netflix, to Five Bloods. We're almost out of time. I could do a whole other show with you because we didn't get a chance to talk about Dessa Rose. We didn't get a chance to talk about Sideshow. I mean, you have so many other incredible shows that you have done, not just in New York, but on the road too. And I have to tell you, when Lea Salonga was here last week, I asked her what one of her greatest memories of doing Once on This Island was. And she said, when Norm Lewis came into the show.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. We had such a great time. I mean, listen, I've worked with her on several projects, and to get to work with her in that beautiful show, I mean, come on, one of my favorite shows in the world. Yeah,
but she was like, just to listen to Norm sing, she would step out of her body and say it was just glorious. So I want to let you know that was happening too.
Thank you, Lea.
We're gonna do this again. But finally, what have you learned the most about yourself personally during this shutdown at home during this quarantine?
I've learned that it's basically you have to not give up. You have to you have to learn. There's so many opportunities that are out there, and not give up hope. It can be mental illness is real. A couple of my friends have gone down the rabbit hole, and we've had to kind of work with them and help them out. But keep busy. Know that you have a voice. Stay on the internet. Learn a skill. Learn how to play guitar. Learn how to knit. Something. I'm probably one of the best cooks I know now because I've been cooking for myself. So yeah, just don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. We're gonna make it on the other side, and reach out to, if you feel like you're going down a back road. Reach out to whomever.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, once again, you will be live this Sunday, July 19th at 8 p.m. with a replay on Monday, July 20th at 3 p.m. with Seth Rudetsky for his Seth concert series. The tickets are right now. There's an early bird. They're $20. I mean, and they're available at sethconcerts.com and, of course, at Broadway World Events. Norm, I have known you since your debut in Tommy and all the incredible journey. I think I've been there for all of your opening nights, including your Paper Mills. I mean, at Baby and everything. I've been to all of your openings on the East Coast. It's been great for me of just watching what has happened to your career, but how you stay so wonderful, so loving as a human being. I mean, I love talented people, but I love talented people who've got a heart of gold. You've always been that way. You're always happy. I try to always be happy also, but it's been so wonderful just to have known you from the very beginning up to where you are today.
Well, it's a reflection of who you are as well. I have to tell you, because you are someone who has always been positive, and even in the darkest times when the show was closing or whatever, you would go, you know what? There was something good about that. So thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being such a wonderful gift to the theatrical community. And you know what? We still got many, many years, brother. It's coming back. It's coming back.
Broadway is going to come back, not just Broadway, the theater in general, all across the United States, off Broadway, around the world. It's going to come back bigger and better with everybody rethinking how to do that. It's going to be sensational. I cannot wait to finally hug you again. I'm a big hugger.
Yes.
You are too. I can't wait to do that. Have a fabulous time this weekend with your concert. Everybody watching around the world, stay safe, and we'll see you when the theater opens. And for all your theater coverage, stay with us here at BroadwayWorld.com. Norm, I adore you, my friend. Take care.
Love you back.